I'm Amir Alwani reporting for PotentNews.com. Right now we're on the third day of the Halifax International Security Forum. They call it the Halifax International Security Forum. We call it the War Conference because that's what it is. Among those present are Peter MacKay, John McCain, and 300 other warmongers. They're going to be talking about what to do about Syria and Iran. Of course, we all know that they're on the same page. With respect to that stuff, this is just Western imperialism. Russia has drawn a line in the sand saying, don't repeat what you did to Libya to Syria. And we all know Libya was a NATO bloodbath. Right now, the Free Syrian Army that's been on the ground in Syria for the past 20 months has mostly not even been Syrian. The arms and fighters are imported from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey, doing NATO's dirty work. Blowing up airports is some of the kind of things that they're doing. Now, even if you bought the bullshit story that Assad was willy-nilly killing his own people all of a sudden for nothing, would you not at least want those innocent civilians to escape via airplanes or the airports? They're also targeting churches, and they are. I've seen a video of them throwing postal workers off the roofs of postal buildings. That's obviously wrong. You can't deliver mail unless you're technically, I guess, with the regime. I think in Canada here, you can't deliver mail unless you're with the Canadian government. So this is complete insanity. These mercenaries and sectarian extremists only represent Western imperialism. But if you swallowed what the corporate whore media has been shoving in your face the past 20 months, then you might disagree. Right now, we are in a crescendo, though. And since the U.S. elections happened, Israel has launched a missile on Syria. And around 4 days ago, they resumed disproportionately brutalizing the Palestinian people as usual. Now, Bowie recently came out with a very detailed and well-researched article on this, which I will briefly quote. As rocket fire hits Tel Aviv for the first time since the Gulf War, the ongoing siege of Gaza must be seen as what it is, a premeditated component of Israeli expansionism. Netanyahu was a zealous supporter of a former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert's 2008 to 2009 sieges on Gaza known as Operation Cast Lead, which killed over 1,400 Palestinians while Israel suffered only 13 casualties. On November 14, 2012, Israeli Defense Forces launched an offensive into the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip and began announcing their progress through an official Twitter account. IDF forces assassinated a prominent Hamas military commander, Ahmed Jabari, who was allegedly in possession of a draft copy of a permanent truce agreement with Israel. The agreement included mechanisms for maintaining the ceasefire in the case of future military exchanges between Israel and the Hamas-led political factions of the Gaza Strip. Militants from the armed wing of Hamas in Gaza retaliated by firing rockets into Israeli territory, a large percentage of which were intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome air defense system. Benjamin Netanyahu used this retaliation to claim the moral high ground by warning that he will take whatever action is necessary to stop further rocket fire from Gaza into Israel. IDF officials have called on 30,000 reservists to prepare for a possible extended ground incursion into Gaza, as IDF forces indiscriminately kill civilians attempting to strike Palestinian aerial and naval targets. The Obama administration has condemned Hamas for perpetuating this violence, while Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood government, led by Mohamed Morsi, recalled Egypt's ambassador from Tel Aviv. Egyptian Prime Minister Hisham Kandil arrived in Gaza after the second day of Israeli attacks in a show of support for Palestine. Through Operation Pillar of Defense, Israel is targeting the military foundations of Hamas, while attempting to portray itself as a victim in the international media. IDF forces dropped thousands of Orwellian leaflets over Gaza, urging citizens to take responsibility for their own safety due to Hamas, quote, once again dragging the region into violence and bloodshed. And the article goes on. I will link it in the notes. Yesterday, Canadians rallied outside the Halifax War Conference to stand in solidarity with Palestine, Syria, and Iran. I had the opportunity to film many of the speakers.
My name's Alan Bazanson. I'm with No Harbor for War, and I'd like to welcome you to the 4th annual anti-war rally against the Halifax International Security Forum. Over 300 war criminals, warmongers, and their apologists from over 50 countries are meeting inside the Westin Hotel to scheme and plot against the world's people. We are here to say, no war criminals in Halifax. No war criminals in Halifax. Warmongers go home. Warmongers go home. Warmongers go home. Billy Lewis, Native Elder, was our honored first speaker. I don't see him here yet. I hope he's well. Billy Lewis was going to give a blessing to us and rededicate Cornwallis Genocidal Park to the Halifax Peace and Freedom Park. Cornwallis is considered a founder of this city. We reject that.
He was a racist pig.
The Mi'kmaq people were the founders of this community, and we honor them. We rededicate this park, not in the name of a genocidal British colonial military leader, but we rededicate it in the name of the people of Gaza.
What?
We rededicate it in the name of the people of Syria. We rededicate it in the name of the people of Iran. We dedicate it to the people all over the world who are fighting for their rights, for their national sovereignty, for their dignity, and are fighting our fight shoulder to shoulder with us. So if Billy comes, he can still speak, but we would like to proceed.
Why do we have to dedicate it to the people of Syria? Why can't we just dedicate it to truth and freedom and not to colonial war people? Why can't we just do that? This park is not for... Oh gosh. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, thank you, sister. The main discipline in this meeting, in this rally, is in all civilized rallies, that we stand shoulder to shoulder, that we attack no one amongst our ranks, and we don't interrupt, and so I wish to carry on that tradition, and I thank everybody's contributions. Okay, I should be brief, and I never am. 2 elections ago, I had the honor, or dishonor, I had the honor of opposing Peter MacKay in an all-candidates meeting in a federal election, at which time, among other denunciations, I called him a warmonger. Several months later, at a meeting commemorating the heroic Scottish people who fought and sacrificed their lives in the Battle of Culloden, Peter was there. I went to shake his hand. He said, "I will not shake hands with you. You called me a warmonger." Well, Peter, you are a warmonger, and you have proved it time and time again. Warmongers go home. Warmongers go home. No war criminals in Halifax. 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 I would like to call upon a Palestinian youth who was asked to speak. Abdullah? Brother, we are with you.
So today I'm going to say a poem by the Palestinian poet. who's a Palestinian poet, and he wrote this in the
علي صوتك علي صوتك والله علي صوتك.
Oh yeah. And he wrote it in the occasion of the first war in Gaza like 6 years ago. It's gonna be in Arabic, so here it goes. نفس الفداء لكل منتصر حزين قتل الذين يحبهم إذ كان يحمي الآخرين يحمي بشبر تحت كعبيه اتزان الأرض حتى مماليك البلاد القاعدين نفسي فداء للسماء قنابل الفسفور تملأها كشعر الغول 1000 جديلة بيضاء نحو الأرض تسعى 1000 أفعى والسماء تريد أن تنقض كالمبنى القديم فنرفع الأيدي لنعدل ميلها يا أهل غزة ما عليكم غيرها والله لولاكم لما بقيت سماء تظل العالمين نفسي فداء لعرق زيتون من البلد الأمين أضحى يقلص ظله كالشيخ يجمع ثوبه وإن صادفته بركة في الدرب حتى لا يمر مجند من تحته نفسي فداء لعائلة جمع الجنود كبارها وصغارها في غرفة قالوا لهم أنتم هنا في مأمن من شرنا ومضوا ليأمر ضابط منهم بقصف البيت عن بعد ويأمر جرافتين بأن يسوى ما في التراب لعل طفلا لم يمت في الضربة الأولى ويأمر مجنزرات الجيش بأن تسير على جثث الجميع يريد أن يتأكد أن القوم موتى يحدث نفسه في الليل ماتوا بكل طريقة ماتوا لكن ألم أقتلهم نفس هذا القتل نفس مراحل التنفيذ 60 عاما نفس هذا القتل يأمر طلعة أخرى من الطيران تنصره على الركام وأهله سائلا قطع الرخام عن الظلام وأهله ماذا ترين وتسمعين فتجيبه لم ألقى إلا قاتلا قلقا وقتلا هادئين. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I say, today we are all Palestinian. Thank you very much.
Long live Palestine!
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 Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry!
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry!
Palestine will never die!
Palestine will never die!
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry!
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry!
Palestine will never die!
Palestine will never die!
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry!
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry!
Palestine will never die!
Palestine will never die!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Long live 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 Gaza!
Long live Gaza!
Long live Gaza!
Long live Gaza!
Samut. Samut means steadfastness. This means that some invader comes and bombs your country over and over and over again and steals everything from you. You have the right to resist them and the right to be steadfast and to hold on to your land at whatever cost. The organization just had its 10th convention, and at this 10th convention was preparing for return. I can tell you that around the right to return movement, people are talking about getting ready to return to Palestine.
Palestine will be free!
Harper, Harper, you will see Palestine will be free!
Harper, Harper, you will see Palestine will be free!
Harper, Harper, you will see Palestine will be free!
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry, Palestine will never die!
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry, Palestine will never die!
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry, Palestine will never die!
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry, Palestine will never die!
From Afghanistan to Palestine, occupation is a crime!
From Afghanistan
have another speaker who has spoken here before, Isaac Saney from the Canada Network on Cuba. And we do note that there are no Cubans inside the Westin today. There are no people from many countries, only from NATO countries.
Well, first of all, salutations and greetings to everyone here. It warms the heart to see so many Haligonians coming out to oppose warmongering, to oppose the plotting of war crimes against the peoples of the world that's going on right in that building right there. And we're not only here opposing this gathering of war criminals and warmongers. We are here saying, as Canadians, as Haligonians, not in our name, not will Canada and Halifax be used as a staging ground for further crimes against the peoples of the world. We say no to Harper. We say no to the militarization of Canada. We say no to the militarization of culture. We say no to the further unraveling and integration of Canada into the U.S. empire. And we also gather here because we are witnessing the latest example of imperialist aggression against the peoples. We stand full square with the Palestinian people. We stand full square with the heroic and defiant people of Gaza who are carrying on against almost insurmountable odds, a heroic resistance against Zionist aggression, against state terrorism, against imperialism. At the center of this struggle is the struggle for the right of self-determination. And the right of self-determination means nothing unless we defend the right of resistance, the right of self-defense. Okay? That is inalienable, inviolable in international law. And the right of self-determination does not simply mean people can only self-determine when imperialist powers agree with how they have self-determined. It is up to the peoples themselves to chart their own destinies. And if they must defend themselves against imperialist aggression, we must stand shoulder to shoulder with them.
Yeah.
We cannot defend the right of resistance if we do not stand with these people when they exercise that inalienable right of resistance and self-defense.
Yeah!
We also have to be very mindful that as those group of warmongers and war criminals gather there, that they also are attacking a fundamental aspect, a fundamental element of what it means to be a person in the world. That is our historical memory. And what they have done, for example, is, Papa, if you've watched the latest stuff on television, watched the latest policies of this government in regards to culture, it is to give a military interpretation of Canadian history. And some of you are probably aware that the Canadian Museum of History is changing its name to the Canadian Museum of History, a somewhat innocuous name, but the focus they're trying to put it on is the monarchy and on military history. So this is an attempt to create public opinion, to force the Canadian state into a further instrument in the imperialist aggression against the peoples of the world. All of these issues are part and parcel, whether it is the struggle of the heroic defiant people of Gaza, whether it is our movement here against Canada being part of NATO or NORAD, whether it is historians and other people who oppose the militarization, the negation and destruction of historical memory, they're all part of the same struggle. They're part of the struggle to create another better world, a world fit for human beings, a world built on real peace and real justice, a world in which the world's people, including the Gazan people who are the heroic upholders of that banner right now, of the right of self-determination, of the right to determine their affairs without imperialist intervention. And finally, I'd like to say that we, as we stand in this particular historical period, this epoch, this era, we face a particular burden. We no longer live in a time where the imperialist warmongers are making preparations for war. We live in a time of war. We have to remember that. We have to take that into account. And when we recognize these fundamental characteristics of our time, it's sobering and it's frightening. We live in a time of war. Wars are being waged all across the world. Military bases are put in place to increasingly surrounding what the U.S. considers to be its imperial rivals, promising more dangerous conflagrations. So we must be prepared not only to oppose imperialist war preparations, but to oppose war. And we, in order to have that achieved in Canada, we must work for an anti-war government. A government that is legitimately and genuinely interested in having Canada function as an instrument of peace and justice and self-determination on the world stage, instead of being simply integrated into the U.S. war empire. So long live the Palestinian people! Long live the struggle of the world's people for freedom, for justice, for genuine independence. Long live the struggle for a world without war. No to warmongers, no to war criminals. Let's stand shoulder to shoulder with the heroic defiant people of Gaza. Palestine and all oppressed peoples will one day be free. And that will be a time when we usher in the end of the era of warmongers and imperialists who act with such great impunity. Long live people's struggle for a better world. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. I think he said it all. Next, we're very honored to have a spokesperson from the Canadians, Arabs and Jews for the Just Peace. Larry, Linda, would you like to speak now? 3 times I've tried to learn how to pronounce her name, and it's almost as bad as my last name.
Scherzinger.
We're proud to have you here, sister.
Please welcome her.
We are told that there's a security conference going on across the street. All of us, of course, we all want peace and security, but violence and the power of weapons and oppression are not the way to peace or security. The way to peace and security is with justice. The problem is, there is no justice. For example, in Palestine, the Palestinians have no justice in either Gaza or the West Bank. There are too many people across our countries that do not understand the situation. They don't know how many people are having their lives threatened. How many people, 27,000 families, have had their homes destroyed by the Israelis who are taking their land. People here do not know. We need to spread the word so more people understand the real picture of what is happening. We also need to convey the message so that our leaders are not making us complicit in these unjust situations that are going on, because they support Israel no matter what the government there does. And that is not what we want our country to do.
Not in our name!
Not in our name.
Not in our name!
Why is it when we watch the news, we do not hear the whole story? Why don't they talk about why the violence is going on, why there are these troubles? It is because there is an oppressive occupation going on.
Really, Mr. Enterprise.
We need to end the occupation and stop the settlements that are a source of great violence. One thing that we can do that is a form of nonviolence is to support the boycott and divestment movement. And all spread the word about items not to buy and companies not to support. We do not want to support in any way the unjust situations that are oppressing people right now, Palestinian people who are our brothers and sisters. That is the way.
By the Westin to be peaceful. And then he asked me, is there anything that we can do to assist you? I said, oh yes, of course. You can assist us greatly by arresting the people. And I said, the first person that you need to arrest is Stefan Abriel, the Supreme Allied Commander of NATO, because NATO is an international terrorist organization. NATO has committed war crimes in Libya, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, etc. So Stefan Abriel, as the head of NATO, needs to be arrested and prosecuted. And then the next person that he can arrest is Liam Fox, the British Conservative MP, the former Secretary of Defense. The UK is responsible for war crimes in Iraq and in Afghanistan and in Libya. And then the next people that he can arrest are representatives of the Israeli government that are here at the Israel has committed genocide against the Palestinian people, against the people in Gaza. And then finally, the other person that he can arrest is the Premier of Alberta, Alison Redford. She is here to promote the tar sands and the pipelines that are going, the Keystone pipeline that's going south and the Northern Gateway pipeline that's going across British Columbia. The people don't want the pipeline, and the tar sands is killing the planet. Alison Redford should be prosecuted for ecocide. She is a climate criminal. So the war criminals are inside. Say it with me. The war criminals are inside. And you should know that, thank you. And you should know that we filed 2 access to information requests to find out how much this is costing. And as Miles said, with our tax dollars, the federal government is wining and dining the wealthy corporate elite. People like millionaires John Brasso and John McCain, these are U.S. Republicans that are being wined and dined on our tax dollars. This month, the Chronicle Herald released a report that showed food bank use is on the rise, and poverty is on the rise in this country. But our federal government is spending our tax dollars to cater to the wealthy corporate military elite, and it's wrong. And finally, I want to tell you that one of the themes of this conference is on new weapons technology, is on drones. So Raytheon is here. Raytheon is a big U.S. weapons manufacturer that builds the bombs for these drones. And in August, the Canadian military said to the federal government, we need you to spend $1 billion so the Canadian military can get armed drones. We need to send a clear message today to the federal government. No armed drones. No armed drones. No armed drones. No armed drones. Okay. So finally, let's say it together. Canada out of NATO. Canada out of NATO. Canada out of NATO. Canada out of NATO. War no more. War no more. War
weak, you guys. We're not gonna let it slide this time. We're gonna stay together. We're gonna free Palestine. We're gonna free Gaza, and we would like to tell them too that whatever you guys are trying to do on this side, it's not gonna work this time because we're all together. We're one hand. We're all together, right? Free Palestine! Free Gaza! Let's go! Free Palestine! Free Gaza! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Gaza! Free Gaza! Free Gaza! Free Gaza! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Ali.
Assalamu alaikum, shalom. How is everybody? My name is Samira Taha. I was in what is called Israel, occupied Palestine, my homeland. And I just arrived before the Israeli attack on Gaza by 1 day or 2 days, no more. But I want to hear to say one sentence. It's the first time in the history of Zionist illegal occupation, what is called Israel, Hungarian airports closed. It's the first time in 60 years Hungarian airports closed from the rockets coming to Hamas to Tel Aviv. It's the first time. This is a big issue. This is a very, very big issue. A huge airport like Hungarian is closed. It was closed, and I don't know if it's open or not, but it was closed for 2 days after these rockets received. And one issue I have to say, like it happened, I went to Nahariya and Kiryat Shmona area, and I met some Israeli young generation, you know, and we were talking about Palestinian-Israeli issue, and I was so surprised that this younger generation are against their government. They refuse to let something called Israel built up upon a land and bodies and houses and businesses and land belong to other people. Thank you so much. And one more thing. There is a girl, I don't know what's her name, but she's the daughter of the general of the IDF, the Israeli military army. She and her friends refused to enjoy the army in Israel because the army of the Israeli army is not built up to defend Israel, whatever it's called, but it's built up to kill Palestinians and destroy their lives. Thank you so much. System in Canada and the prison system in Palestine is all part of the same system. Palestine is an open-air prison, and the same techniques they use in Palestine and they use in the prisons here are the same. So please never call me up and ask me what I'm doing. So this is dedicated to them and to the police who are watching us over there. In this world we live in, TV is all about conditioning, so shows like Law and Order teach the enemies within us so they never show the system. Target blacks and aboriginals, a system of collision with European militarism and white supremacism which has driven our condition, the policing of our neighborhoods, Big Brother's supervision. They intimidate the people with guns, crack at their religion, and the threat of prison sentence is the way they end resistance. Committing black men in the millions is just slavery continuing, just politics as usual when 1/3 of us go missing. And our ritual of manhood now is prison house admission, and they claim recidivism is just our predisposition. TV reflects the willing of the powers who do business, and their souls are always vicious, and their actions are malicious, so they'll never show how poverty makes criminal decisions. So there's no kind of existence on the government assistance, and drug dealers just a synonym who can't live on the minimum and can't support the children when they cut the electrician and they send their agents in again to break the people's spirit and fill their pocketbooks because their greed respects no limit, and so all poor people get beat into submission. Their ghettos were caused by their mortgage rates and interest, and these wicked landlords just protect their own positions, and they always need more because their greed is not sufficient, so the working poor are society's victims. So on TV, black men are never innocent, and the state is always winning, and the scientists never buy a cultural opinion, and the police never find evidence to get a false conviction. This is not entertainment, it's historical provision where racism never influences the jury's decision. They'll insist that this is justice, and they never show the killing and how teeth are bashed in when a prisoner is not willing, and the AIDS infections and the heroin addictions, how the violence is commissioned at the prison guards bidding. This is not rehabilitation, it's slave ships our men are filling. And that's why we never listen to prison activism, like when Angela Davis talks to prison abolitionists. We know everything about the system when it comes to skilled racism, and so we believe every prisoner is guilty of sinning. Where is the show that tells us how they plan the prison building place on the reading levels of third-grade black male children? And this is not just in ghettos, it's a global coalition, a conspiracy of rich men who profit off munitions and keep the oil wells filling and get sent to politicians and start genocide in Africa, steal land from Palestinians. And so we support Gaza when we see him torture dissidents when it happens at Guantanamo. It's all just repetition. I even saw a TV show that showed extraordinary rendition. Primetime television just programming us to the CIA's mission. And the American Idol is American imperialism. It's sickening how The Apprentice glorified some corporate villain who made his shady billions off pyramid scams and swindles and building luxury hotels for other reptilians who suck the blood and dignity from working civilians. When he fires his workers, the ratings go into the millions, and we support the mass who humiliate his victims. And then we wonder why laid-off gunmen made workplace Hitler. I just wish we'd raise a fist up instead of reaching for the pistol, and the people would pitch in and take down these sons of bitches, and we'd open up the prisons. Like a million Wentworth Millers. I know that revolution will not be shown on television.
Thank you, brother. You're good. Hi, my name's Larry Haven. I'm a member of Independent Jewish Voices Canada, a national organization. We also have a chapter here in Nova Scotia. We're a group of Jews from diverse backgrounds, occupations, affiliations who have in common a strong commitment to social justice and universal human rights. We come together in the belief that the broad spectrum of opinion among the Jewish population of this country is not reflected by those institutions who claim authority to represent the Jewish community as a whole. A growing number of Jews across the country are absolutely disgusted by the actions of the Israeli government. And we say, not in our name. And so, a short 4 years after the last Israeli massacre in Gaza that killed 1,400 Palestinians, over a third of them women and children, we again see bombs raining and the Israeli forces poised to inflict close-quarter punishment on those abused 1.5 million inhabitants of 365 square kilometers, 15 times smaller than Halifax Regional Municipality, the largest open-air prison in the world. And as usual, the unquestioning defenders of Israel ask the question, what other country would put up with rockets landing on them? As if history began 2 minutes ago when I bit your foot, and not with the 60-plus years when your foot was grinding my face into the dirt. I think there's no better testimony to the real context of the recent events than the autobiography of Dr. Ezzaldine Abu Aleish, the Palestinian physician from Gaza, who spoke in Halifax last week. As you will recall, while they were cowering in their apartment with their father during the last invasion of Gaza in 2009, 3 of the good doctor's daughters and his niece were killed, and another daughter horribly injured by an Israeli tank shell. This despite the fact that Dr. Abu Aleish worked in an Israeli hospital, knew many prominent Israelis and had called a friend who was the host of an Israeli television station to report, "There is a tank in front of our house, they're going to kill us, please do something." The Israeli television host, Shlomi Eldar, says, "I kept trying to get the IDF on the phone. Taking out Hamas was one thing, but attacking the home of a doctor was another. I wanted to make sure they knew whose house they were aiming at." Viewers all over Israel and later the world heard the doctor's anguished cries on television in real time when the Israeli forces fired and killed the 4 children, decapitating one of them. Dr. Al-Balaish's story is not a single isolated example. It's just a high-profile and horrifying personal exemplar of what Israel is doing and has done to the Palestinians. But it's Dr. Al-Balaish's backstory that sets the true context of the horrible events of 2009 and of today. Born and raised to crushing poverty in the Jabalia refugee camp, of parents who were forced to flee what later became Israel in 1948, he bucked the odds to study medicine and established himself as an expert in fertility, counting colleagues across the world. But he never forgot the misery of his childhood and describes it eloquently in his book. Everybody should read it. The 2009 events with his daughters are shattering, but so horrifying that tears could not come to my eyes. It was a quieter event about a year earlier, described in the book, that is the most poignant and did bring tears to my eyes, and I know it will with you. Away in Europe for a medical conference, Dr. Al-Balaish learned that his wife, suffering from leukemia, had taken a turn for the worse and had been admitted after intolerable bureaucratic hassle to the Israeli hospital where he worked. Then began what he described as a journey from hell. Desperate to get back to her, he was blocked and humiliated at every turn by Israeli officials, both stupid and malicious, despite his prestige, despite his pristine security record, despite all the good connections that he had. When he finally got to the hospital, she had slipped into a coma from which she never awoke. Dr. Al-Balaish has sworn not to hate and has dedicated his life to that. And good for him. But he is superhuman. Other Palestinians are merely human. Casting our minds back to the current events, I want to quote from Chris Hedges in a piece he wrote 5 days ago before the events in Gaza, but which are very prescient. Quote, "Rebellion always mystifies the oppressor. What are their demands? Why do they hate us? What do they want? The oppressor can never hear the answer, for the answer is always the same. We seek to destroy your power." The oppressor, blind to the brutality and injustice meted out to sustain dominance and prosperity, escalates the levels of force employed to protect privilege. The crimes of the oppressor are seen among the elite as the administering of justice, the right granted by privilege and power to shape and govern the world. The oppressor cannot see the West's false humanism. The oppressor cannot, as James Baldwin wrote, understand that our history has no moral justification and the West has no moral authority. Thank you.
It's good to be out here. Good to see lots of people here. Louder? Okay. I'm a student at Dalhousie with the Nova Scotia Public Interest Research Group based out of there. It's a nonpartisan public research and action group. And I want to talk about something you probably didn't know. Last year, our Premier Darrell Dexter, with some people from Dalhousie University, went over on a mission to Jerusalem. And they met with people at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and formed new research ties that would use Dalhousie's tuition fees to encourage research into security and defense at the Hebrew University of Tel Aviv. I use the word security and defense lightly. It's not security and defense on the Palestinian end. To them, security means new forms of psychological warfare. It means checkpoints that herd Palestinian people to the West Bank like cattle. As a student of Dalhousie, I am ashamed and outraged at this. As a citizen of Canada, I also want to raise another very problematic problem. The Canadian pension plan, which every single worker pays into, has $1.6 billion invested in 66 companies that produce security and defense technology used in the West Bank to oppress Palestinian people. As citizens of this country and people living in this country, we need to speak out. The boycott, divestment and sanction movement is an effective way to isolate this rogue regime and bring down the apartheid that is oppressing the people of Palestine. So say it loudly, say it proudly. Boycott, divestment, sanctions.
Boycott!
Divest the Canadian pension plan from Israeli apartheid.
Divest the Canadian pension plan from Israeli apartheid!
Canada's investments in security in Gaza are a joke. They're an insult. They use language to cover up their crimes. Where they say security, they mean apartheid and oppression. Where they say human rights, they speak of those. They say that the people of Palestine are oppressive towards women and homosexuals, and Israel is a liberal, tolerant country and an oasis of backwardness. To that I say, Israel is not building a wall around an entire country to create a safe space. They speak of democracy, but we know that the government of Israel stood in solidarity with Hosni Mubarak as the brave people of Egypt stood up against the dictatorship there. We see through their hypocrisy. I'm very angry, I'm very upset, but we're going to keep working on this. We're going to press forward with the boycott, divestment, sanction movement. We've done it before with South Africa, we will do it again. Palestine will be free. Thank you.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Peter McKay, please organize the next one in the summer. Because we have many more speakers, we're going to cut it down to 2. And then we're going to go down to the sidewalk. We have the honor of somebody who's just returned to our city, Dr. Zaid from the Canada Palestine.
It's with great pleasure and honor and pride I see so many of you here standing bravely and with humanity and honor to support the cause of justice and peace. The issue I think I want to talk about particularly, as it is a major crisis at the moment, is the question of what's going on in Gaza and what Israel is doing to the people of Gaza. And I think it is important to remember that the policies of the State of Israel have been all along to literally expropriate the land of the Palestinians, humiliate the people of Palestine, demolish their homes and completely expel them out. And this is a continuing process that has been going on for generations. What is also most upsetting, as I see it now, what's going on in Gaza, killing the people of Gaza, is our political leaders and media are so totally biased and hypocritical that they continue to say that Israel is retaliating. Yet in fact they forget to remember who actually creates the conflict and who creates actually the killing and the attacks. This goes on, and the audacity of these political leaders and the media is so violent and so great. When you imagine that in fact what is going on, killing the people, our Prime Minister and our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Byrd, condemns Hamas, and he says that Israel has tried to defend itself. Israel is the aggressor party. I was very pleased to see recently a report by Professor Noam Chomsky, who was just recently together with a group of linguists in Gaza. And Chomsky was asked, what did you see in Gaza? And I'll let me tell you. This is what Professor Chomsky said, it's kind of amazing and inspiring to see people managing somehow to survive as essentially caged animals and subject to constant, random, sadistic punishment only to humiliate them. This is exactly what Israel is doing. Professor Francis Boyle has just also written a report about what's going on in Gaza, and he says Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. And this is by definition of the 1948 Genocide Convention, when you subject people to deprivation, humiliation, and constant destruction of their property and so on. He said, and the sad thing about it, that no international action has been taken to stop the genocide in Gaza, despite the findings by the variety of United Nations bodies that have done so. So I think I am proud and pleased to see that so many of you will stand with the people of Palestine and the people of Gaza who deserve our support. Thank you very much.